My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one.
I woke up from this horrifying nightmare. I get nightmares, everyone gets nightmares, we get dreams, but that was the most horrifying nightmare I have ever gotten. So it was me, and then in front of me was a bridge, a very thin bridge, and then below that bridge was fire, and it's not just fire, it's fire that's boiling like how a porridge boils, you know, how it bubbles while it's boiling. That's how the fire was boiling. In the dream or nightmare, I was just standing there stranded. I'm not on the bridge. I'm not where the fire is. I'm just in a place that's a bit raised. And then now in the dream, the voice in the dream comes and tells me, try Islam. Try Islam.
Hey you, welcome to episode 263 of Legally Clueless. That story is coming up in a bit, which is part 2 of Vallery's story about her transition from Christianity into Islam. If you are new to this podcast, audio episodes like this go out every single Monday on all podcast streaming apps, and you can catch us on Trace FM in Kenya every single Monday, Wednesday, 1 p.m., 11 p.m. Fridays we're there at 1 p.m. Make sure you join our fam officially so that you can receive letters from me. Head over to Legally Clueless Africa and you'll see it on our homepage, how you can just fill out the form and join the family. Last thing, our favorite corner of the internet is our Instagram page. So join the fam there. We're at Legally Clueless Africa. All those links are in the show notes. So before we jump into part 2 of Vallery's story, I wanted to share something very interesting that happened to me. A few days before we started our East Africa tour, which we're currently on, I think 2 days before actually, I was up to my neck in spreadsheets, just trying to figure out the budget, figuring out our flights, our hotel, liaising with each on-ground fixer or person who's going to handle the logistics in 3 different countries. And these are people I've never met. So it's just like, you know, asking friends, asking people. They connected me to these awesome people. And so there's a lot that goes into planning a tour. So much, you know, and I haven't done a tour of this magnitude before, where it's 3 countries back to back. Never done it. And so I was really having self-doubt festering, you know, just wondering, have I thought of everything? Have I figured out everything? Am I going to be in budget? What have I forgotten? Am I going to let down our partners, let down the crew? You know, that self-doubt that checks in right before you do something big. Yeah. As I walked into the bank to just do a final check-in with, you know, all our cards, etc., that self-doubt was on an all-time high. And I was sitting there with my headphones on because I get so anxious in public when I don't have my headphones on. I don't know. I really don't know if it's social anxiety. I don't know what it is, but I literally can drive to the mall to go do grocery shopping, and if I get there and I don't have my headphones, I'm sorry, but we're not gonna have food. There's gonna be no food in the house because I am not leaving the car, you know. And I have my headphones in the car all the time unless I take them in to charge them, you know. Anyway, so back to the bank. I have my headphones on and I'm, you know, trying to calm myself down, listening to very calming music, trying to understand that, yes, this self-doubt is human to feel, but don't let it get away from you. But I was failing because it was even getting to a point where I was like, even this legally clueless thing, what am I doing? Who am I impacting? Why? What is this? Like, it spiraled so far, so fast. I was literally questioning everything I'm doing with my life. And as I'm sitting there, this guy comes up to me. So I'm sitting down and looking down. And I see this like smart shoes and a suit standing in front of me. So I look up and I'm just like, who the heck is this person, right? They look a bit older, super official. And so I'm like, is this like an uncle? Like, who this? So I'm like scrambling to turn off my music. And I even stand up. That's how official he was dressed. I was like, is this an uncle or whatever? So I stand up and say hello. And this guy proceeds to say, hey, I just had to come and say hello to you. There's a speech of yours I watched that really impacted me, and it inspired me to think deeply about my leadership. Like, I'm not even making this up, yo. Like, this guy was saying all of these things. He proceeds to tell me how talented I am in speaking and how I delivered such heavy pointers but with softness, so people really heard what I was saying. He's like, you should definitely get into international relations. I love what you're doing with media, and I know media, you can impact more people, so like also have a bit of this speaking in your media space, you know? And then he says, I was Kenya's former high commissioner to like a particular country. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, and you know, your speech really made me think long and hard about the type of leader I want to be. So he said his name to me like twice. I'm in a daze. I'm like, thank you, blah, blah. He goes away. First thing I do is Google, because I'm like, is this guy playing around? Like, what the hell? And so I Google, and it's true. He was not only a former high commissioner, but he was also a former cabinet secretary, I think, in the last regime. And yeah. So I was like, wow, what an instant reply from, I always feel like my ancestors walk with me. And whenever I ask questions or question especially my journey and like what I'm meant to be doing, etc., I get answers, but they're never immediate like that. Never, ever. And so I was like, wow, Adele, like you are questioning literally a few seconds and minutes before this man stepped up to me. I was questioning, who am I impacting? What's the point of what I'm doing, you know? And I'm not saying that some people are more important than others based on, you know, titles or all of those things. No, not at all. I think what I normally do is like limit the reach of my impact in my head. And I forget that it includes so many other people beyond my wildest dreams. And so that was quite a reminder and just a nudge to be like, just keep on your journey, keep doing what you're doing. You literally never know who is watching and getting impacted. As long as you're walking in your truth, you are living genuinely according to where your spirit is calling you to and guiding you to, then you definitely are going to be impacting people. And there's no way of knowing how many people are being impacted by you, clearly. And it was just so powerful. He didn't want anything from me other than to come and say hello and thank me. And that was a moment I really needed that. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I wanted to give him a hug. But then consent, and like you don't even know someone. So yeah, that was something that happened that was so wonderful. I just really wanted to share that with you. But anyway, so let's jump into the story, which is Vallery's story, and we'll come back and talk a bit more on something very interesting that comes up in her story. In case you haven't listened to part one, please listen to the previous podcast episode so that you can not be floating. And part one ended with her getting this job working in a restaurant, but it's month end, everybody else has been paid. This is her first job, so she's pretty clueless on how to navigate it, but everybody has been paid but her, and she's wondering, who the heck am I meant to ask about my salary?
100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
So I go to my friend in the counter and I tell her, Umelipwa, have you been paid? And she says, yes. Which mode are you paid with? Then she said, we are normally sent through M-Pesa. And I was like, how come I've not found mine? Then she was like, I really don't know, but you can go and ask the boss. And I was like, no, I have this fear that comes out of respect when it comes to people more older than me. So I was like, no, I'm afraid. Then she was like, are you afraid to go pick your salary? I was like, okay, let me go. So I get into this boss's office and I knock and I sit down. And then he asks me why I'm there. I tell him, you know what? Everyone who works here has told me that they have been paid. But when I look at my M-Pesa, there's no money. So the guy laughs and tells me, don't worry, you'll be paid. What did you say your name is? I tell him my names. Then she's like, how old are you? And I tell him my age. So I'm like, how is my age and the salary related? Didn't I just answer those questions when I was undergoing the interview or something? So before I knew it, one thing led to another, and he had bad intentions towards me. He wanted to assault me, but with me being super sharp, I'm super sharp when it comes to defending myself. So beside, near his table, I'm on top of the table where he was seated, he was drinking this mega big Stony. It's a soda. He was almost done with the soda. So I was like, if he makes another single movement towards me, I'm not aware of what I'm gonna do, but I'm going to hit him so bad. Wow, I'm shaking. Well, I happened to hit the guy with the bottle on top of his head until to an extent the bottle cracked, and I just sat confused and shaking. There I'm shaking right now holding this mic. I'm at this recorder, and I couldn't put 1 + 1 to get 2. I was like, what have I done? That was literally February. It was so bad that I didn't know what to do. And then the one person who I trusted, the girl in the counter, I felt like going and telling her what I've done. Maybe she'll try and help me. But I was just so afraid. So what I did, I walked slowly. You could have thought I am pressed with urine, but I was just walking slowly, shaking. I went to the counter. I told the girl, my friend, give me my bag. I need to go home. Because we used to leave our belongings at that place. Give me my bag, like my purse. I need to go home. So she says, have you talked to the boss? Have you been given your salary? And I told her, no, I'll come back tomorrow. I took my bag. I walked slowly. By the time nimetoka nje, like I'm outside the restaurant and everything, I couldn't stop thinking. I was shaking. I was sweating. I was not even looking where I'm going. I remember I was like almost hitting people across the road, like along the road while I'm walking. And then I took the motorbike, and I remember spending an entire 250 from town to Rongai, just because I was avoiding crossing the road. I was thinking a lot. I was avoiding walking all through Hadi to the Rongai stage where the matatu stay. I was like, I can't do this. I went into the house, and reaching where I used to stay now in the house from Guy, I locked myself and I couldn't stop crying. I cried. Yani, I'm looking for a job for me to get money. The money not to do anything else but to buy weed drugs. Because if it comes to food or paying the house rent, it was all catered for with my mom. But now, this more bigger urge of me having money, it's for drugs, nothing much. And then now me going to look for a job and getting a job, hopefully a salary. This man tries to do what he wanted to do. And because of defense mechanism, I hit him on his head. I'm just crying, I'm sweating. And that was the beginning of my now deep depression. I told myself there's no essence of me living. And it was during those days that I started unfollowing people. I lost my Instagram in the process. I deleted all my photos. And the idea that came into my mind was open the gas. See that part of where we get to light the gas. I open it, I let it leak. I close the door, I close the windows, I get into bed. I cover myself up to the head, like no ventilation at all. And then I sleep. So I slept. And the moment I slept like this, I didn't wake up until 2 a.m. Why did I wake up? I woke up from this horrifying nightmare. I get nightmares. Everyone gets nightmares. We get dreams. But that was the most horrifying nightmare I have ever gotten. Like, it was something so surreal, like you have never imagined you can dream like that. So it was me, and then in front of me was a bridge, a very thin bridge, and then below that bridge was fire. And it's not just fire, it's fire that's boiling, like how a porridge boils, you know how it bubbles while it's boiling. That's how the fire was boiling. In the dream or nightmare, I was just standing there stranded. I'm not on the bridge. I'm not where the fire is. I'm just in a place that's a bit raised. And I once told this story to someone, and she was like, maybe you are high. I was not high, guys. I was not on drugs at that time. I was just someone who's trying to suffocate myself to death. And then now in the dream, the voice in the dream comes and tells me, try Islam. Try Islam. So many times in a very weird voice that I've never had. I can't say that the voice was like from a certain male friend of mine. No, it was just a voice that I've never heard again. It was just try Islam, try Islam, try Islam. And I remember waking up and sitting down and I was like, hiyo ni ndoto aina gani? Which kind of a dream is that? What is try Islam? The last time I thought of Islam was when I was in primary. What is inspiring this dream? I don't even have Muslim friends in campus to say maybe they're the ones who have been talking to me about Islam. No, I can't even remember the last time I had a Muslim friend. Where is this dream coming from? Then I was like, it's okay. I need to go back to sleep. But the more I was trying to find sleep, the more unbearable the vicinity was. The smell of gas that it's normally like, even when you're trying to change your cylinder. So I was like, Kwani, what's not happening? Then I was like, kumbe I had left my gas leaking. So I took my phone, nikasha torch, and I navigated to the gas. I was living in not a single house, what are they called? Self-contained room. I found it like it was so leaking, and then I turned it off, and then I walked towards the window, opened the door. And when I opened the door, guess who was trying to lock the door? And I was not hearing all this time. It was my neighbor. His name was Humphrey, and he was knocking to ask me if everything is okay, because it has been days since they saw me outside the house. Tell me why. Eating, I was not eating. If it's eating, I was literally eating, like boiling the rice and everything. If it's going like for short calls or long calls, I was doing it in their house, literally. So I don't blame him coming to knock at that late in the night after seeing me opening the windows and the doors to ask me if everything is okay. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, everything is okay. I said it in the most arrogant way, and he was like, are you sure you are okay? You've not been outside for so many days. I was like, I'm fine. Then I was like, okay, the door is open, the window is open, I've turned off the gas. I'm going to find my sleep. I need to sleep, because now I had taken olanzapine and I had just told myself it's time for me to die. Going back to sleep, I woke up again at 4 a.m. The first time it was 2 a.m. Right now it's 4 a.m. And I wake up sweating, shaking, and worried, because the same nightmare repeated itself, but now the voice was super loud. Try Islam. It's like I'm being told it's this or death. And I was like, guy. Now waking up, sitting, wondering, looking at my phone, it's 4 a.m. I start now asking myself, what is try Islam? How do people try Islam? How do people become Muslims? I go on YouTube, I start searching how to become a Muslim. It brings me so many videos, like the results. And the first video was by this sheikh called Mufti Menk. And I see the video was talking about 5 pillars of Islam. I'm like, let me listen to this video. I watched the video. The 5 pillars of Islam is Shahada, Salah, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj. And I'm like, what are these? Surely, what is this I'm learning? Then I started learning one by one. What's Shahada? Shahada is declaration of faith. Salah is literally praying to God. And Zakat is charity, when you do charity. Then fasting is literally either fasting the two, not the obligatory days, Monday and Thursday, so you to choose. And then there's Ramadan, and then there's Hajj. Then I was like, okay, this is interesting. I continued learning, and I couldn't just understand what I was learning. I just thought of praying. After a very long time of talking with God, I finally talked to God, and I told God, I don't know where this dream is coming from. I don't know if it's from you. I don't know if it's from where. But the one big problem I have is that I think I have killed somebody. Please, God, deliver me from that. You, the same God who created me, the one who knows me, just... If you answer this question that I'm in, that I feel like I'm all alone, and I feel like I'm alone. If you just help me, you save me from this, I will want to know you better. And I stopped. I didn't even say amen or anything. I was talking as if I'm talking to my fellow human being. And I continued learning about Islam, and I forgot that I had prayed. And then it was literally the next day, it's 4 a.m. So let's say 7 a.m. kwa asubuhi in the morning. Someone calls me and tells me, "Hello, Val." It's now that girl who was working with me in the same restaurant. And she tells me, "Shukuru Mungu hakukufa." Then I switch off my phone because I don't want to talk to her. At first she was threatening me, she will say me. Then right now she's saying Shukuru Mungu. And then the next thing I knew, I had exited WhatsApp. So I was receiving messages from my friends. Where are you? Why are you not coming to school? Then there's this friend of mine, may God bless him so much. His name is Mullah. He had sent me a verse from the Quran, and it was telling me, "Do not fear, for God is with you." And I wondered what made him talk to me about Allah and Quran at this point, and we had not talked anything about religion. Then I was like, let me learn about Islam. I need to learn more about Islam. The more I learned about Islam, the more questions I was getting. I was having so many questions about myself, about existence, about everything that's happening. And then one day Mura calls me and tells me, "How are you doing? We have not been seeing you on radio." I used to be on radio some time back. And then, "What is wrong with you?" I just cried. I started explaining my issues, how things have been going. I didn't tell him everything, but I started telling him everything and telling what I have been feeling, what I've been thinking. And it's through that phone call that I went back to my senses, my initial senses about my existence, the reason why we live, and why we get so many, we get deluded in this life thinking that it's our final destination, and yet this is not our destination. And then now this guy who I hit on the head texts me and says, "Ulidhani utaniua, but I'm still alive. I'll look for you. You thought you will kill me, or you will have gotten rid of me, but I will still find you." And I was like, whatever, I'm already afraid, I'm already tensing, there's nothing I can do. Let him find me if he's to find me. The things that Mullah told me and the things that I was finding through YouTube, through this Sheikh Mufti Meng, and through me thinking and everything making so much sense to me, I went back to WhatsApp and I remember texting Mullah and telling him, "Do you know where I can get an English Quran?" And he started explaining to me where I can get it. I go to town near which mosque I do. I get the Quran from this place and this place. And I was like, that is so much work. Especially, I just told myself, that sounds like too much for me, for a person who has not been out for such a long period. And then I was like, "It's okay, I'll go find it." Then he was like, "Wait a minute, are you a Muslim?" And then I was like, "Yes." And I was not a Muslim. Maybe it's through what I had so far discovered through YouTube, and that nightmare that was really scary to me. I just told him yes, or maybe I was just telling him yes so that he can allow me to get more closer to finding our Quran. Then he was like, "When did you take your Shahada?" And I was like, I want to ask him what Shahada is, but I'll leave it at that. So I told him, we'll talk later. So I went on Play Store, Google, looked for the Quran. I started reading the Quran. And then reading the Quran, there's this specific surah I met. It's called Surah Baqarah. It's the second surah of the Quran. I read it within, the moment I digged into it, the first page, I just felt like it's something I want to read it forever and ever. So it is literally the longest surah in the Quran. It has 286 verses, and I read it in one day. I took my time, didn't take a pause. I read it, and by the time I was finishing that surah, I couldn't help but cry. I cried. There were so many truths. There were so many answers that I was looking for all my life, ever since I was a child. Even when I thought I was just a child with so many questions, kumbe those questions were making total sense, and they had extreme answers. Like that surah answered me so badly that I couldn't wait to take my shahada, because I was like, if I was to die yesterday trying that suicidal, it means I could have gone to that fire that was really boiling in my nightmare. So the surah opened my eyes. It made me understand our existence. It made me understand how life is and why is it like this, and why do we end up the way we end up? Why do people choose different paths in their lives? So first of all, I was still in my weird ways, neglecting my body, not showered, not everything. My house was all smelling and everything. I've read the surah. It has really answered all my questions. I've gotten emotional. I couldn't help but cry every day while I pondered on the surah. And I'm like, I want to be a Muslim now. And I'm like, I need to go back to YouTube and look for that video again. I looked for the video, the Shahada one, and then I now got to learn that for one to become a Muslim, you need to declare your faith upon God, that God is solely one, and that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final messenger of Allah, and so is Jesus. Jesus is the messenger of God. He was sent with one message. The one message is, as Muslims we call it Tawheed. It is the God consciousness, the oneness of God, to believe that God is only one. So I took my Shahada, and the Shahada is originally in Arabic, but when I was trying to say it in Arabic, I realized I'm not uttering them correctly. So I was like, I need to look for the Shahada in English, and thank God that Sheikh has placed it also in English. So I said my Shahada, and I was like, wow, I feel so nice. I feel like the whole weight that I was carrying, either in my heart or wherever, I feel like I am so light right now, just declaring that God is one, and that you are a Muslim now, and that you believe in the messengers of God. It was such an amazing period of myself. I felt so nice, and then I was not even sure. I was like, am I now a Muslim? Is this how it feels to be a Muslim? What makes me look like a Muslim? And immediately, I don't know where the strength came from, I started now cleaning my house, telling myself, let's wash the clothes now. I washed all the clothes, the ones that had lice and maggots and all those. I burnt them, I threw them outside. My house was infested by flies. I had to look for jik, wash my walls, clean the house, the cockroaches. I had to look for everything just to make my house look nice. And when I started process by process, step by step, cleaning the house, because cleanliness is next to godliness, and in Islam, cleanliness is also a virtue of worship. And then after the house, I now moved to myself. I told myself, let me do undo this hair. I don't know where the strength was coming from. I don't know how the healing was happening, but that's enough to show that God is real. And then I just worked. I worked slowly by slowly. Of course, I didn't do all of them at the same day. I could tell myself, today is the house, tomorrow is the dishes, the other day is the clothes to be washed, and then now the final day I went, took a shower. I threw the clothes that to me didn't look like Islamic pleasing, and then from there I started looking for my friends from way back. This girl I worked with on the organization that I don't mention. Her name is Farhia. I texted her and I told her, you know what, Farhia, I've just converted to Islam, I think. Can you help me know where I can find hijabs? And she didn't reply, and I don't blame her. I bet she really found it like a joke. This is Val, the smoker, the person who drinks, the person who just puts herself out there doing things that are not Islamic pleasing. And then you're coming to me telling me you have converted. That is the worst joke. Like, she just could, like, nobody could believe, and I felt so bad. I started looking out for my friends from primary. Social media is the best thing. I found them, and shout out to Mantas. She helped me so much. She told me, don't worry, if you don't have hijabs, you can navigate yourself back to Eldoret and do this and that, and we will help you find more things to help you in your Islamic journey. And the journey continued like that. I didn't tell my mom, But it was in April. April, it's when the Shakahola thing happened. And my mom called me and told me, are you going to church? And I told her no. And then she told me, you've never gone to church? And I was like, yeah. Then she told me why. She asked me, why are you not going to church? And I told her, Mom, I have considered Islam. And she laughed also because it's funny. It's something that she didn't imagine I could tell her. So she said, are you joking? And then I told her, Pana, Mom, me, I'm not joking. I am literally a Muslim as we speak. And she's like, what makes you think you're a Muslim? I just turned off the phone and I didn't talk to her again. And then the next thing I knew, she was sending me fare to go back to Eldoret. And she sent me fare and told me, we need to talk. I told her, I also need to talk to you. So I remember selling some house belongings, selling the bed, asking people who will buy this, who will buy this. People are like, why are you selling your things? Because you're never going back to school. And I'll be like, I don't know, only God knows my future. And they'll be like, hey, even you have started talking about God. And then people who were not so close to me will start judging me. Others will say maybe she's getting married, that's why she's selling her belongings. It was weird, but I didn't even want to know what people said about me anymore. I went back home and my mom was so surprised when she saw me fully changed. I'm no longer behaving the way I used to behave, because there were ways I used to behave towards her, towards the family. And I remember the Quran has really emphasized us on how we should treat our families. So it was like super good. I was just like, I had transformed. Like, if you knew my dark days or my weird ways, and then now you could have seen me at that time, you could have just said, what happened to you? You've changed. So time went by like that. I'm trying to learn Islam behind the scenes, because I just told my mom through the phone I converted, but she didn't take it seriously. So I need to find another way and another date to put it in her mind, like, it's true, it's serious. I became a Muslim. So after weeks had passed, I'm still healing from the traumas. Of course, every day I sleep, I'm remembering what I did to that guy, to that man. But I didn't share that story with my mom. Then one day, after I've done all the house chores, I sit down and I tell my mom. My mom tends to wrap head wraps on her head. So I was like, that's how I'll start my conversation. I told her, Mom, where do you get your head wraps? And then she was like, why are you asking of head wraps and you're a small child? Do you want to start wrapping your head? So I tell my mom, I want to use the head wraps to be my hijab. And she was like, she looks at me like she's so scared. She doesn't know what to say. Then she tells me, so it's true you're a Muslim? Then I tell her, yes, Mom, I reverted to Islam and I just want head wraps because I don't have hijabs. And she becomes so angry. Like, I don't take it personally, because any parent could have behaved like that. She becomes angry. She wonders, this is something so foreign. What led you to Islam? I try telling her the story. She tells me that is not a real story. I'm making up stories. She even uttered that shetani amemnyang'anya mtoto. That literally means the devil has taken her child. And I was like, no, you're getting all wrong. Then time went by and she's noticing I'm not going to the mosque. As much as I'm saying I'm a Muslim, she's noticing I'm not going to the mosque. She tells me, she starts like mocking, but it's like she's curious. At the same time, it's like mocking. She finds me with head wraps in the kitchen and she pulls them off my head and tells me, oh, so you're a Muslim. Like, how come you don't go to the mosque? Oh, so you're a Muslim. How come you don't wake up for Salah? You don't wake up for Fajr. You don't pray those Salahs that I hear them calling out for prayer. Then I told her, Mom, step by step, why have I not gone to the mosque? I still don't have modest clothes. And why am I not waking up for prayers? I don't know how to pray yet. And they laugh, they make fun of me. It's normal, I got it. But as time went by, I'm still communicating with my friends like Mantas, Mula and the rest, and they'll guide me, they'll send me TikTok videos. This is how Salah is done. Try emulate these people. Try to write, try to draw. I'll draw people page by page and put the papers right in front of me. and I'll download apps like the Qibla. When we pray, we are facing a certain direction. I'll follow that. Yani, like, my friends literally came through for me, and I thank God for that, because they showed me, like, even though we are not so close in the location, yes, I had come back to Eldoret, but I was in Mailene and they were maybe in West Indies and other places. So they'll send me videos. Follow these videos. This is how we purify ourselves before prayer. And then follow these steps. This is how we work on our prayer. This is how we do this. This is how we do this. And then, yeah. And then by the time we finished all those and I had learned so much, it was now time for me to see how my mom takes all this. And I will make prayers, I will make duas to God, make my life, ease in my life. And then I made this ayah in the Quran which says, with hardship comes ease. And all through those memories and chapters that I had to walk through in my life were the hardships. And now that Islam came into my life, I got the ease. And the ease was my dua being answered. I stopped alcoholism, I stopped smoking, I quit my friends. Some just removed themselves from my life. And that's how I got to learn my true friends, because my true friends still stick with me till date. They keep asking me about Islam. And then my mom, now I made a prayer for my mom, and I told God, please God, isn't this for my mom? Let her accept me just the way I am. I know this is a crazy decision I made in my life, but let her be contented and just be with me, like, let her accept my truth. And with due time, she was all over, very supportive. She noticed, oh, so you're not yet going to the mosque because you don't have modest clothes. Take this. She'll buy me dresses. And then the rest of the family just navigated with the entire thing. Out of nowhere, I prayed, my prayers were just answered. Things just come. My sister started waking me up for prayers, like Fajr is way earlier. And at that time, my phone had issues, and also my sleeping schedule was weird. Where am I at right now? I feel like I'm in the best position in my life because Islam brought me light, Islam brought me healing, and I can't do without Islam, because if it was not for Islam, I could not have been alive. Yeah, this I go to the mosque every Friday. I go for the Jumu'ah. The Jumu'ah is I go for the hutbah. The hutbah is the every Friday service. I feel so loved. I feel so welcomed. I feel understood. Like, wow, I don't know what to say. Wow. So navigating my life as a Muslim now back in Eldoret was much simpler, because all the people in Eldoret were those who wished me well, and majority of those people were Muslims. I even got to change my name from Vallery Mudhoni to now Mudhoni, and I love how that name came to be, because it's literally meaning ultimate favor from God, and that really shows how much God favored me, from being a cigarette smoking person to now being a person who takes her time reciting the Quran, learning a lot of things in Islam. Like, the things that I used to waste my life or my time on are no longer in the picture. I'm right now working towards being a better Muslimah. And yeah, that's all I can say. Islam is the best, and it doesn't inhibit women. It actually treats women as Jannah, and to us, Jannah is literally heaven. God tells us in the Quran that it is we mothers or women that hold the Jannah below our feet, and that's why we women are treated in the most beautiful ways. And actually we are like the princesses, because it is us who hold the keys to people's Jannah.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless.
I really enjoyed this story because it honestly is the first time I've ever heard somebody share a story about converting from Christianity to Islam. So it was so illuminating for me to kind of walk that journey with Vallery through her story. I love that, and it's one of those stories I'm going to remember for a while. One thing I thought was, man, you just don't know the burdens people are carrying within them. But the other thing that stood out to me was dreams. Oh my goodness. And I really want to hear from you about dreams, right? And so obviously she talked about having this dream on the heavy night where she's really contemplating not being alive anymore. And yeah, I just wonder, do you do you take your dreams seriously, or do you feel like there's a scientific reason as to why you dream certain things? You know, please let me know. And if you had an experience where a dream meant something powerful to you, I want to know. Please leave a comment in our comment section on whatever platform you're listening to this episode on. I really want to hear those stories, because for me, and none of my friends believes this, so they always are like just looking at me strangely. I truly think and believe my dreams have meaning. I know there's a whole scientific explanation to dreams, etc., and that's cool, but I have had very many instances where I have asked things or spoken out loud, especially when it comes to needing guidance or understanding of things that I'm going through. And my faith is really that of speaking to my ancestors and everyone in my lineage, both known or unknown to me, but those who have the best intentions for me. And I will ask questions in the moments where I need guidance. And let me tell you, every single time I've had a dream that makes sense in terms of my question is answered. Like, it's not abstract, like I'm forcing it to be an answer. Like, it literally just clearly makes sense. I don't want to get... I'm a bit shy to get into the dreams, because I literally had one last night after asking for guidance. And so, I truly think and believe my dreams in very many moments have meant things. Every time I've asked for guidance, there's been a vivid dream where that question or whatever has been answered. And I don't dream every day, hey? I don't dream every day. And so, isn't that... I find it beautiful. I don't find it creepy or whatever. But I want to hear from you. Why is this topic is making me giddy? I don't know why. But I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments on whatever platform you're listening to this episode on. Yeah, what you think about dreams. I mean, everybody's truths are welcome here. If you think they're purely scientific, fantastic. If you feel like there's more to it, I want to hear, like, have you had a dream that something that's been troubling you has made sense through a dream? Okay, as you are doing that, I just need to remind you that this is the last week for you to enjoy the subsidized course. We are in partnership with Mirazi, their healthcare provider here in Nairobi, and they've super subsidized their costs on breast and pelvic ultrasounds, consultations with GPs and gynecologists, as well as pap smears. So look in the show notes. There's a link to a video with all the details, all the costs, and share that video with everybody and anybody you know. If you want to share your story on this podcast, fill out our storyteller form. A link to it is in the show notes, and one of our correspondents will get back to you and record your story. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're African, we want to hear your story. It's valid. We want to amplify and celebrate you. So it all starts with you filling out the storyteller form. Thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. In next week's episode, we talk kidneys. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.